That's
today
the
too.
beauty of Zoom. It like puts like a gloss on you. Like I look glowy, but really I'm just sweaty. Pavel, I'm distracting us. I'm sorry. Wait,
No,
what
no,
does your
no.
first say? I know it says dancing.
Oh, it says bailando pegado. So like dancing. Well, pegado is stuck. So like dancing really tightly. So we got the two band-aids.
Cute.
Yeah.
Did you design it?
Yeah.
When am I gonna get swag?
It's online, you know.
Oh, you're gonna send me that link. Drop a link. Okay, cool. So let's get the Starbucks cup out of here. They aren't sponsoring anything yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. So what's our game plan?
You know what's funny? I was actually thinking about this conversation for a while, and I was like, should I cancel? Should I not? Because
You want to go on me?
I was about to, yeah, if I'm being honest. I'll tell you why, though. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Well, because like I typically start the show asking my guests, like, all right. So first of all, like I typically have like people that identify as Latinx or like Latina or Latino. So you're my first non-identifier, if you will.
You can call me a white girl. I'll take it.
You're my first white girl on the show, right? So that's one thing, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was just trying to like the whole time I was trying to think of how to
position
this conversation, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I still don't really know. I mean, I figured like we'll just have a conversation, and at the end of it, I'll figure out what to do with it. But it's been bugging me for so long.
Well, okay.
You didn't think about that?
No.
In having this conversation?
Yeah, no. I thought about texting you like.
You're gonna cancel on me before I cancel on you?
I'm not feeling well. No, because I think, listen, I reached out to you whenever that was, like a month ago. And I was like, yo, when are you going to ask me to be on your podcast? And I was like pulling your leg because I think it's really cool.
Very demanding now that I think about all this. First, it's like, where's my shirt? Then it's like, when's my podcast episode? I don't know what's next.
Yeah. Well, we're friends, so it's like, but I think what you're doing is so amazing, and I think that the conversations that you're having are so important. And you know, for me, like I wanted to better understand why this is something that you're doing and something that you're passionate about and something that you're investing a lot of time and energy into, because I think it's really important, but I'm like really curious to the root of your why. Like what specifically in your life, what moments, what are you currently feeling, like what has led you into creating this show and having these conversations, you know, because I think a lot of people probably feel the way that you feel and the way that I feel, but they're not starting a show about it, you know, they're not having these conversations. So like I want to better understand your why.
I love that. It's funny because we both worked at the same company, and I remember meeting you, and like you were really friendly, you're really cool, but there were certain things that you would do in the office, and I was just like, I would never do that. And it's like such simple things, but I was just like, I would be so scared to do some of those things because I feel like people would look at me like, what the hell is Pavel doing? But I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself to not only are people going to judge me, or this is a story that I tell myself. I'm like, not only are people going to judge me, but there aren't that many just Black people in the office. There aren't that many Latinos in the office. So the story that I tell myself is anything that I do that reflects on me is going to reflect on anyone that they look to hire in the future.
Wow.
Right. And I mean, it's such a simple example of like, I would see you, well, I'm in a sales organization. So depending on the day, some of us like dress up. Some of us wear like t-shirts to work, but for a long time, like I just didn't want to wear a t-shirt to work, even though like it's well, whatever. You used to work at Facebook. I work at Facebook. It's a very like relaxed culture, but I didn't want people to judge me and say like, oh, look at Pavel in his street clothes. You know what I mean? But then I look at you and you're just like chilling in tights. You have like a baseball cap on. You have like You had like these pimple stickers on your cheek and forehead, and it was just like the most chill vibe. Like, I'm like, this girl doesn't, she's so comfortable in her own skin that like she doesn't care what anyone else thinks. I just admired it like from such an early stage.
I was waiting for you to get to the part where it was a compliment.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Yeah, no, listen, like you and I met near the end of my time working in that role. And I think right off the bat that I just felt a connection with you. Like I just felt that you were very relatable and very honest and very approachable. You know, we worked on that project together when I was hosting those kids, and I was like, Pavel is the perfect representation of this company. And I think that you were just so relatable, and I wanted these young kids to be able to see themselves in you. And because I think that's the most important thing is like, you know, the saying, like, if you can see it, you can be it. And I
Yeah.
think so often, you know, growing up, it's like you only think you can achieve the things that you're aware of, you know?
100%.
And so, um, hearing from you, someone who is hugely successful and all that you've achieved at the company and beyond, and your story and, you know, where you came from, how you grew up, you know, why you're passionate about your role is really powerful. And that's something that should be embraced and encouraged and, you know, shared far and wide. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, no, it's the truth. It's the truth. And I think, you know, um, we were talking a little bit ago, and, you know, you shared that you sometimes feel like you scale back who you really are because of the professional setting, right? And you know, I have never experienced that in my life before.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, in a workplace, I
Right.
think, you know, fortunately, I grew up in a small town outside of Detroit, and growing up, my parents both worked. They are my heroes. They're the most amazing people I've ever met in my entire life. And I'm so fortunate that I get to call them my parents. And they, when I was growing up, my brothers and I, they wanted us to experience as much as possible. And like, we didn't grow up with a ton of money, better off than some, worse off than others, you know, like we were nice middle class. And no matter like what was going on, my parents always took the time to spend with us and to take us out and try things. Like we would go to like free music festivals in downtown Detroit. Like I'll never forget the time that my parents took us to a techno festival, which like they didn't
What?
know what tech music was. And I was probably like 10 years old. And, you know, there are people dancing around half naked and, you know, enjoying themselves. And
Were those your parents?
yeah, exactly. That was my mom and dad. Um, and, you know, my parents just always taught us to embrace people who were different than us, people who enjoyed different music, people who had different passions, people who had different interests. You know, we were constantly going to museums and learning new things and trying new foods. And so I feel really fortunate that I had the upbringing that I did, and it 100% shaped who I am today. You know, I I don't know how else to explain it, but like in my head, I don't um it is so impossible for me to change who I am in different situations. It is like against every morsel of my being. I just can't do it. And so the way that I'm talking to you right now is the same way that I talk to my parents, the same way that I talk to my friends, the same way that I talk to my bosses, the same way that I talk to my colleagues, the same way I talk to my clients. I just can't filter myself for better or for worse. It is what it is. And so, you know, I think that we always end up where we're meant to be in life and surrounded by the people that we're meant to be with. And I've just always been under the impression that like, if I'm not somebody's cup of tea, that's fine. Like, we'll figure it out. But like, I cannot change who I am to adapt to a situation. And, you know, I have to be honest, like it broke my heart to hear you say that you felt like you had to do that in order to fit into the situations and to different work environments. And I really I want to understand that on a deeper level. And I want to know what I can do and what other people like me who are feeling this way can do to be better allies, better friends, better partners, better colleagues, all of it.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing that. I mean, I think it's beautiful, the experience that you had growing up. The fact that you were
And granted, like, I also understand that that isn't,
yeah.
you know, that's not super common and that's not the norm for a lot of people. And I'm super fortunate for that. And you know, I strive in my life to make other people feel that way. You know, like, I want to create I want to exude comfort and like safety with everybody that I come across in life. Like,
Yeah.
I want to like immediately put people at ease. I want to, you know, disarm them as soon as I'm in conversation with them, always.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, I mean, it's funny because now I'm thinking about like me growing up. I feel like I was always encouraged to be myself.
Yeah.
Um, although, I mean, growing up, like, you don't really know who you are. You know what I mean? So, growing up, like, as you try to figure yourself out, like, there's some things that you want to do, maybe um, based on just like the media or different things, right? And like this idea of just like professionalism and image was always so ingrained in me. Um, my grandfather, for example, like he would visit his friends in their apartment just to grab a drink with them in their apartment, just like guys' night at somebody's house. And he would wear a suit to their apartment. And
Wow.
I'm just like, why did he always do that?
Yeah.
Um, this like overcompensation to just like look a certain way so that people won't judge you. And I think it was because of where he came from. In Dominican Republic at the time, he was living under a dictatorship, and you have to like present yourself in a certain way to not look suspicious,
Yeah.
to not look like a thug, we'll call it. So I think he's just always dressed like that. And I never wanted a tattoo, but he would always tell me, "You better never get a tattoo." He would tell me, he would tell me to shave. He would tell me to just like look a certain way. Because he would tell me, "Do you see any presidents with tattoos? Do you see them with beards? Do you see any CEOs like that?" And I was like, "No, I guess I won't either." But I don't think it. I think what he was trying to do though is really like protect me from other people and other people's perceptions of what they may think of me before they get to know me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think there's so many instances where like people of color are prejudged before people even get to know them. And then when they're put in that situation, they're like, all right, well, this person's already judging me. Like, I'm not gonna be myself because they're gonna put it on, like, they're gonna judge me times 10. You know what I mean? Like, I remember this one interview I had, not at Facebook. It was this company called Collective. They don't exist anymore, so whatever. I'll call them out. I was in an interview and they were asking me like standard. This white dude was giving me like standard interview questions, like, "Why do you want to work here?" Blah blah. And after that, he was like, "Hey man, you have all the experience, to qualify for the role, etc." He was like, "Let me ask you something else. What's your favorite Jordan?" I was like, "I'm sorry, what?"
What?
First of all, like, is that a standard interview question, or are you just asking
I've
me?
never been asked that.
Yeah, like you just assume I like Jordans, whatever. So I answered the question because I wanted the job. Then he was like, "All right, cool, cool. What about Kendrick Lamar or J. Cole? Like, who would you rather listen to?"
Wow.
And it's stuff like that that I think forces us to like, all right, well, they're already assuming I'm a certain type of person, and like, there's nothing wrong with liking Jordans, or there's nothing wrong with liking Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole. I'm a fan of all of them, but it's just like these like automatic assumptions of what your character is, and like what you associate with those people, which I have no idea. But in that situation, I could have been, well, like, in thinking about my authentic self, I think of myself as being fearless, being outspoken, all these things. But in that moment, in that power dynamic where I want the job, but he's treating me a certain way, I just like shriveled up and I was like, I like J. Cole, I like Jordans. You know what I mean? But there's so many instances like that where, then I got the job and I could have said something to him. I could have said something to HR, but then there would have been that like retaliation potentially, right? Where
Yeah.
he is some sort of key to my success. He wasn't my manager, but he was a teammate, right?
Yeah.
So I think overall, I mean, I think having this conversation is one way to just open up the dialogue, raise awareness that like these things do happen.
Yeah.
And another reason why I really want to have these conversations is because a lot of these type of issues happen, and they're reported on things like Glassdoor. And there's a lot of theories out there that like people just write things on Glassdoor, make up stories to like bring the company down or whatever company it is. But these stories exist, and I wanted to put a face to some of these stories as well. So that's a little bit about the why. But what about you? Like professionalism in general, like has so many connotations, even for like a woman. Like that never had any impact on you. Like how did you think about it?
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely. And it is something that I think about, and something that I, deal with and that I face. But again, like I just go back to like my being, I can't adapt to like what other people's expectations of me are or should be. I don't know how to do that. And, maybe it's hurt me, maybe it's helped me, but that's just the way it is.
I could teach you. It takes a lot of prep.
But it makes me so sad though that there are countless people out there who, you're wearing shorts?
Oh my, yeah.
Okay, I'm wearing sweatpants. Wow, we are two peas in a pod. So, okay, to get a little more personal. So, my boyfriend is Dominican, and very early on in our relationship, just a little thing that we would constantly have conversations about. I am 100% that girl who's comfortable like waking up in the morning, throwing on a pair of sweatpants that I probably, wore the night before when I was chilling on the couch watching Netflix, and like, dirty hair, brushing my teeth, because if you don't brush your teeth, that's gross. Like you should always brush your teeth. Like I'm cool without showering, but like always brush. And
cool without showering.
For like at some point in the day you have to. You can leave the house without showering. Well, my boyfriend can't. He has to get up, shower, and like put on like an outfit. Like he needs to feel like he looks presentable. Mm-hmm. Whereas like I can wear the same t-shirt that I wore when I was like, 14 years old in high school that, has holes in it and stuff. And he like puts on, I call him his work pants. He puts on like work pants and a button down. And I'm like, we're just going across the street to the diner to just grab a nice little breakfast, And for him, like it started off as like a little silly thing that I'd be like, it's unacceptable that I can get ready and out the door faster than you, And then it started to be like, okay, no, but really like I'm getting frustrated because like I just want to be able to like go and like be comfortable in who I am. And then when you dress up and you look presentable, then I feel like I need to dress up and I need to look presentable. And so like, what is this need that you have to feel, like super put together and looking professional all the time? It's Sunday at 8 a.m. Who am I kidding? 10 a.m.,
Did you ever have the conversation around like why though?
Yeah. So like for him, it's part of who he is, for him, it's culturally, that's how he was raised, to always be looking your best and feeling your best and putting your best foot forward in all situations and all matters and showing up that way. And, hearing you say these things, like, I feel like we need to dive deeper into it and I need to better understand that, because I feel, I've never felt that way before. So there's a lot of things that come up in our relationship that are just different, culture. We were raised different. We grew up in very different places. I grew up in a small town. He grew up in Brooklyn, and so I love the opportunity to learn and teach each other, and find the commonalities in our differences, and then also like have differences and be cool with that, and I'm so excited about our future together and the way that we continue to grow and bring out the best versions of each other and transform together. I think it's awesome.
That reminds me of, I was dating a girl and I had a similar situation. I mean, there's so many memes about this, and it's like, I don't know, Sunday morning, I'm like, oh, let's go get coffee, a little brunch. But not like a sit down party brunch. Just like, let's just go to like the corner deli, pick up some brunch and like come back. And she would throw on like jeans, heels, and a nice top.
That's
And I'm just
aggressive.
like, I was so aggressive. But it's such a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Not, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
We're very appearance based, but I'm wondering, I'm sure it's different for everyone, but I'm wondering if it's more so like perceptions, like other people's perceptions, and like we're doing it for other people most of the time.
Yeah. No, I think about that a lot actually, because especially like hearing you say that you thought I was a crazy person when we worked together. It's like, if you're the one thinking that, obviously other people are thinking that too, right? Like there's got to be somebody that's like, wow, Sarah's wearing a ball cap again. But it's like, who even gets to decide like what is professional and what is not,
I
like
agree.
where does that come from? I'm not showing up in, half naked, wearing, not wearing any clothes, and haven't showered in 2 weeks. But you know when will I be seen purely for my capabilities and my assets that I bring to the company, regardless of the way that I look, or regardless of the color of my hair, or the color of my skin, or what designer I'm wearing or not wearing.
Right.
Like these are things that really fascinate me, and I try desperately to understand like where that all comes from. And it's a multitude of things and reasons, and I'm more focused on what can we do to break those things. And I just want to be the best version of myself, and I want to be around people who want to continue to be the best version of themselves. And I think that we can always learn, and we can always grow, and we can always better understand. And so that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because you've shared things with me already that like I've never thought about, or I've never experienced. I've never been on the receiving end of that.
Yeah.
you know
And there's
and
nothing wrong with that. That's fine. What
it's just
about and tell me, because it's so interesting, because I historically, I was telling you this before, like historically I've only dated Latinas.
yeah.
But I mean, there was one girl in college, well, Latinas or black women, but I was dating this white woman, and like for so long I never even thought like I would have anything in common with a white woman.
Mm,
And it sounds like so strange, probably, right? Like we're all people, we have some, like we probably watch the same shows and music and whatever. But like for me, like I've always thought of us being just like so different, and I was just like, this is never gonna work.
yeah.
But she was actually really dope. And I can't say anything negative about her. Like she's dope.
Yeah.
But during it, I found myself feeling like, am I a sellout? Am I like not Dominican because I'm dating a white woman? I don't know. Like this whole concept of just but it's so interesting. Like I didn't think about that when I was dating a black woman.
Mm.
I've only thought about that in this specific scenario. Like, did you have any sort of, yeah, like in interracial dating, like do you have any of those like thoughts that come through your mind?
Hmm. Okay, wait, before I answer that, can I ask you a question?
Oh, whatever.
Okay, great. Because so where did those things like where did that come from in your head, that you thought that you wouldn't have any commonalities with her because she was white? Like what were
Yeah.
the things that you thought would be difficult to overcome, or would just be too different to find relatable? Were
I
there
think
specific things?
I think I was projecting my experience mostly from work
Hmm.
on her, where I'm like, all right, people at work don't get me, right? I'm not saying all white people at work, right? Like I have a bunch of close friends that are white from work. Um, but I'm just saying, like, they don't get me, she's not gonna get me. Or like
Hmm.
there are certain cultural things that I love doing. Like I love Dominican music. Most of all, I love dancing, whether
Yeah.
it be merengue, salsa, bachata. And I'm just like, if she wants to go out, and again, I'm totally making the story in my head. I'm like, she's gonna want to go to a certain type of club that's
Hmm.
gonna play music that I'm not gonna like. Like I only go out to clubs and bars that play Spanish music. If
Yeah.
they're not playing Spanish music, I probably won't go.
Yeah.
So I just thought that there would just be too many differences for it to work.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I think, obviously there are differences between my boyfriend and I. For example, he's a man, I'm a woman. I'm just kidding. It's too early.
Shocker.
Dad jokes. No, I think, there are a lot of differences culturally and just in our upbringings and the way that we are raised and our families. But at the end of the day, like, you know, uh, I love him because he's a beautiful person. He's the most beautiful human I've ever met in my entire life. And
Aw.
it's so true. He emits such joy and light and is so genuine and sweet. And when I first met him, I didn't know where he was or what he identified as or his background. I didn't know that he was Dominican. And I knew the second that I met him, I was like, this is the guy for me, 100%, no questions asked. I could just feel it. I just felt an immediate connection. And obviously there have been things that have been different in our relationship that we've had to like work through and better understand. But ultimately, I think it's about the way that you approach them, right? Like for us, it's exciting that there are things that are different in our backgrounds, and then being able to teach each other about those things instead of being defeated like, oh, you wouldn't understand, or
Right.
you can't relate to this because you've never had this experience or done this before or tried this food, right? Like, oh my gosh, he introduced me to adobo, which like now I put everything, and like, wow. If nothing else, I now have adobo in my life. But
and malekong. You had malekong for
yes,
years.
oh my gosh, I could eat chicken mofongo for the rest of my life. Happy. Oh,
Yes.
wow, what I would give right now, and some tostones. Um, you know, one of the first times that I met his extended family was at a family birthday party, and it was in the basement of his cousin's house out on Long Island. And it was a really wonderful party. There were a lot of people, there was great music, great food, everyone was having a good time. And then around like 10 o'clock, I was like, okay, like maybe we should think about heading back into the city. We've had like a full day celebrating this birthday. And he was like, oh no. He was like,
It's about to start right now. Yeah.
yeah, like that was nothing. That was just like us visiting before the party. And suddenly, all of his cousins are coming in with like these huge speakers. And within minutes, this music is so loud that I can't even hear myself thinking, like I was having a tough time like sending text messages because I was like,
What?
I don't know I couldn't think straight. Like all I could hear was this music, right? And like everyone just like having an awesome time. And I like in my head, I was like, if I did this growing up, like I would have the cops at my house within minutes. Like my neighbor would call the cops on me in a heartbeat, and like this would be shut down and everyone would be sent home. And I said to him, I was like, aren't the neighbors gonna complain? And he was like, the neighbors are here, like they're at this party.
That's the secret. That's how you have to do it.
Exactly now I know. Pro tip. So we were there till like, I don't know, the wee hours in the morning. I was like, are we sleeping here? Like what happens now, right? And it was just like this completely different, it was a child's birthday party.
Yeah.
Like it's like an 8-year-old. Okay. Like
those parties are for the parents, not the child.
yeah, no, but this turn up was real. And everybody was dancing and like it was so fun. And I was like, I've never been to a birthday party like this, but sign me up.
Baby showers are just like that. They're the best.
I've heard. I've been to one. But yeah, no, they're great. But his cousin was like, come dance with me. And I was like, I have no idea how to dance. Like I have other gifts, but dancing is not one of them. And so I looked at Christian and I was like, you have to get me out of this. And he was like, no, like you have to do it. Like everyone's dancing, you have to learn. And so I was so terrified of dancing because I knew everyone in the family was going to be like, okay, he's brought his girlfriend, let's see what she's got. And but that was in my head, that I was so concerned about what they would think about like my dancing ability. And
it felt like an audition. It felt like an audition on your end.
Yeah. It was America's Got Talent on steroids, but in reality, nobody was looking at me. Nobody was watching me. Everyone was just, doing their own thing, having a great time. And even though I was terrible, you know, I was made to feel like I was a part of the family, and that, you know, they embraced me with open arms in that moment. And it just like felt safe and comfortable and okay, that I didn't know how to dance bachata, but they were going to take the time to teach me and be patient with me. And you know, obviously his cousin like really kept it simple for me, which was awesome. And I just think, you know, the more times in life that we can have those moments, those real, genuine human connections of seeing each other and meeting each other where we're at, the better we're all going to be.
I forgot what I was gonna say.
But it was beautiful.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. No, but I totally agree. I feel like so many times we make up these stories in our head around like what we think a situation is going to be like, or what we think people are going to say. But in reality, like most of the time, like it's such an exaggerated version of that, and like
Yeah.
doesn't even happen.
Yeah.
Talk to me about like the family dynamic, right? Like I think so often, and I don't think it's specific in Dominican culture. Like I feel like you hear it across all cultures. It's like there's a saying. It's like protect the blood. Um,
Mm.
Protect the Dominican blood or protect the American blood or whatever, you know what I mean? And you see that, I think a lot of people talk about it in the sense of like racism for Black people. I'm wondering if that happens the other way as well, right? Like, do they not want their sons or daughters going out with white women, white men to like not be a full Dominican baby, for example? Like if that couple were to have children, I'm just wondering like what that dynamic would be like.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's different with every family, of course. And I think that, you know, it's something that a lot of cultures experience. And so I think, you know, there are probably people on both sides. There are people, you know, there are probably friends of ours who have questions and, you know, have those concerns. And I think, you know, it's challenging, but you have to go back to like what you see in each other and why you are with each other. And you know, I'm sure that there have been you have to understand the root of where that argument could come from. Like, why could someone think that if you are with somebody who is outside your race, ethnicity, nationality, like what does that change, right? Like what is being lost? And I think it comes down to culture, right? I think this is my opinion. I think the fear is that the culture is going to change. You're no longer going to, you know, care about the same values that we have in our family because you're bringing in somebody outside who has different views and different opinions and different ideals and maybe different morals and whatever it is, right? And so you have to understand that it's, I think, the fear of the culture changing or no longer being the same. And when Christian
I,
and I
I
first got,
agree with that.
when
I could
Christian
definitely see that. Yeah.
and, and you know, that's how I've understood it. And when Christian and I first got together, you know, I told him that I wanted him to just speak Spanish around me as much as possible because I want to get better at speaking Spanish. And one day when we start a family, I want our kids to be bilingual. I want him to speak Spanish in the home, you know. I want them to have raging birthday parties, you know, like I want, you know, our children's birthday parties to really be about us and our friends and the things that we want, you know. But I just think that there are so many special things about Christian and his culture that have made him who he is and has made his family the incredible people that they are. And I would never, ever, ever want to lose that. The same way that I never want to lose the culture that I have within my family and with my relatives. And so like for me, it's the best of both worlds, is that we are going to take these amazing parts of who we are and combine them, and then like have these like superstar children who are just so in tune with the world. um that was a lot,
I
uh,
love that.
but I think, you know, we've talked about this a lot, especially recently with everything going on in the world, that, you know, okay, we may create this super loving home, super accepting home, super positive home, But when our kids go out into the real world, you know, what are they going to deal with? How are they going to be seen? How are they going to be labeled? How are they going to be identified? And I think even if we weren't in an interracial relationship, we'd still have those concerns, right? I think parents genuinely fear, like, you know, what is my kid's experience going to be like at school? Are they going to be accepted by their peers, right? And it's heightened when you add that element of race and culture and identity, right? And I shared this with you, but beyond you, I haven't shared it outside of my, you know, my parents. But Christian and I were walking a couple months ago in Los Angeles, and we were approached by what I can only presume was a white supremacist. And he had a Betsy Ross flag, which is often used by the KKK. And Christian and I were walking, holding hands in our neighborhood, and he drove up to us and just started yelling foul, foul things. And my immediate reaction was to get mad, and I was ready to fight. And I'm not like I never want to harm anybody. I'm not a physical person like that. I'm not an aggressive person, but I was so infuriated that somebody could have so much hate in their heart and attack us, you know, purely for being in an interracial relationship. Whereas Christian was like so calm, so cool as a cucumber, and was like, let's just keep walking, like not even fazed by it. And, you know, I got upset then with Christian because I was like, why aren't you mad about that? That was horrible. That was terrible. That should never happen to anyone ever. And, you know, for him, he was like, things like that happen. They've happened to me before. You know, I've been in situations like that. I've seen things like that happen. And for him, it was just like, you know, it was a normal thing that he has experienced throughout his life, to different degrees, of course. But he was like, that's just a crazy person and they don't matter to me. Right. And, you know, that was something that we had to work through because I couldn't understand that. And then it just broke me to understand that he was just numb to things like that because there are things that he so often experienced, right? And you know, we started to talk about how do we change it for the future, because we can't go back and change the time that, you know, you were stopped and frisked on your way home from work because you were carrying a bag and fit the description and look suspicious. We can't change that. But what can we do going forward to make sure that those things don't happen, you know, in our community and, you know, to whatever extent of our power that we have, and how do we make sure that that isn't something that our children experience, right? And I don't know that I have the full answer to that yet, but it's something that we are constantly talking about. You know, we think about like if we named our kids and, you know, they had a white name, but, you know, maybe our kids are darker and they look more like Christian. What does that mean for them? You know, or if they have, you know, a traditional Dominican name and they are, you know, super pale, like what do they then have to justify that they are, you know, 50% Dominican? Will they constantly have to go through life and, you know, feel like they have to justify their culture and who they are, right? And so we've had a lot of conversations about how we identify and, you know, what we can do to, you know, create an accepting and loving world. And I think that it really goes back to the way that we treat the people in our lives, right? I mean, you can't control everybody, but you can control the things that you are responsible for, and that's, you know, how you treat people and how you make them feel. And that's where I think it starts.
You touch on so many things, but it's so unfortunate that it's so unfortunate that incident that you and Christian experienced. It's so unfortunate that happens to so many different people. I mean, I have my cousin who is Puerto Rican, who's very light skinned, probably like the same complexion as you, was going out with I think Jamaican woman at the time, and he got stopped at gunpoint at one point in New York City in the subway for that same very reason. Just they didn't they were just criticizing his relationship, the fact that he was in a, you know, in an interracial relationship, and they just didn't see that as being acceptable. Which is so unfortunate that people still think like that in these times. Um, and going back to another point that you mentioned too, around like that fear of losing the culture, I think I shared that same fear. Like I always feel like I'm not Dominican enough in certain situations.
Wow.
And I mean, that's like a whole other topic, but like, I don't go to Dominican Republic every year. Like, I don't know. Like, people ask me all the time, like, where to go to Dominican Republic. And I'm like, I don't know. I'll send you a TripAdvisor list. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so like, there's this like weird dynamic with just like my Dominican identity that I think a lot of us go through that weren't born there or weren't raised there. Um, but yeah, at the end of it, I agree with you. Like, I think we should be able to go out with whoever we'd like. We should be able to love whoever we love. I think there are ways to, I think it's a justified fear on some level, but I think there are ways, like you said, to incorporate whatever culture or dynamic that you want to incorporate into the relationship or into that child's life if you do have a child.
If we tell people that you cannot, you know, mix with other races and ethnicities because you need to protect your culture, that's racist. We're promoting racism, you know what I mean? And so, you know, I don't think that anyone in our network of friends, family, colleagues, I don't think they're racist. I don't think that they look at us, you know, like and curse our relationship. But I
Right.
think if anyone were to have concerns about a relationship, it's, you know, about the preservation of culture.
Yeah.
And, you know, culture is unique to each individual and to each family. Like, to hear you say that there are situations in your life where you don't feel Dominican enough, like that's really heavy.
Oh,
So heavy that your camera broke. But that's a lot to unpack, you know? Like, I don't know that I've ever questioned, like, do I feel white enough? You know? Like
I'm
I've
sorry
never,
to laugh at that. That was yeah.
I've never thought that, you know? Like, that's a crazy, like, I don't know, maybe some people have.
I never feel white enough.
I don't know, but like
That's gonna be the name of this episode. Am I white enough?
you know, but so I'm and I've also never had somebody tell me that I wasn't white enough, or that,
Yeah.
you know, my father is Greek, my mother is Polish, German, and Hungarian. And, you know, I can't speak any of those languages. I can't cook any of those foods. And, you know, I could maybe name 10 cities across all of those countries combined.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, we'll take it. Don't ask me to do that, but I'm gonna try later tonight just to make sure that I'm being factual. You know, so, but I've never struggled with that part of my identity of like, am I Greek enough? Am I Polish enough? Like, of course, I wish I could cook all those amazing meal, you know, traditional Greek dishes and, you know, German dishes and Polish dishes and Hungarian dishes, and that I could speak all of those languages. But the reality is that I can't. But, you know, there are parts of those cultures that are a part of me, that maybe I don't understand as fully as I should. You know, there are things that make me who I am and, you know, play into my mannerisms and my character that are traditionally deep rooted in my culture, and I don't have that same sense of connection to understand that.
Right. Yeah, I'd be really curious if Christian feels the same way as well. I feel like most of my Dominican friends feel like that. It's either because, like you said, right? Like we spoke about languages, and language is a huge part of culture, right?
Yeah.
It's how different cultures communicate, obviously. So I have friends that don't speak Spanish that well. So if they're in Dominican Republic, or if they're in a group of Dominicans that speak Spanish really well, they sort of like hide a little bit and they don't speak up as much, right? Because they're scared to say something in Spanish. Like, the hell kind of Spanish is that, right? Or even if you know Spanish and you speak like Spain Spanish, like you
Yeah,
get made fun of. You get made fun of for that because it's not like this Dominican
yeah.
Spanish, right?
Different dialect.
Uh, exactly. So there's so many things. I mean, there's certain Dominican foods that I don't eat, and I get made fun of for that. So yeah,
Wow.
I'm always really curious of to hear about those things.
Wow. I mean, I'm very self-conscious of my Spanish. I will say that, like his family's always been very supportive, and, they are very patient with me. I can speak pretty good Spanglish. Like I can get words here and there, it's the vocab that I struggle with. But, his father texts me always in Spanish, and, I first try to translate it on my own, and then I'll type a couple of the words into Google Translate and piece it together, and go that route, because I want to put the effort in and show how much I care, and that's part of who they are, and that's important to me. And I don't know. I just think putting that effort in, right? Like if more people just put the effort in to understand and to appreciate each other's differences instead of calling them out and saying that's bad. Like I don't understand that. I don't understand how, because someone speaks a different language or looks a different way, is a bad thing. Like how deep you must be hurting on your own that you have to call out other people's differences and make them feel less than because they don't look or act the way that you do.
Right.
I just think about that a lot.
I think what I'm learning is just like the rest of the world just needs more people like you.
Wow, that's the nicest thing you've said this entire time. Well, see you later. Bye. Oh my gosh, that is so nice. Thanks, Isabel.
I'm serious. I'm really am. You know, it's funny. I think I might end it there as you were like, "Oh my God, it's a nice thing you said." No, but seriously, like that. I feel like you are also just so self-aware as well, as far as like, if someone doesn't like me, right, or if there's some like maybe there's an instance where like someone on Christian's family doesn't necessarily accept you, right? And you're probably, then you in your head, maybe this is just you being curious, right? It's like, all right, well, why is that? And then you're like, all right, well, it's because maybe they're fearful of losing their culture. All right, well, I understand that. Well, I'm fearful of that as well. Hey lady, like, or guy, like it's not just you, it's me. And like this is what we're doing to foster that relationship, to ensure that the culture never dies.
Yeah.
And I feel like if more people had those conversations with not only their significant others, but also that was a weird term, significant others, with their boyfriends and girlfriends, but also with just like family members or whoever it is. Like I feel like conversations could just solve so many of our problems.
Totally. And I think also, like, let's be real, you're not going to get along with everybody. You're not
Sure.
always going to see eye to eye with everybody, and while I don't believe in changing who I am to adapt to different circumstances or different people, because I think every single person is important and is valuable and matters. And so, I think that's really the root of why I don't believe in changing the way that I talk to different people, right? Like I talk to my parents truly the same way that I'm talking to you right now, and the same way I'm talking to Christian, and the same way I'm talking to his family, and the same way I'm talking to my bosses, because I feel like if I alter the way that I speak and present myself, I'm telling myself that other people are more valuable or more important than other people. And I just don't believe that. Like you hear about people who feel like they have to, sit up straight and be polished and buttoned up when they speak to their boss to show that they are attentive and that they're, dedicated and determined and X, Y, and Z, all of the things, right? But what I'm really doing is putting up a facade and pretending to be what I think you want me to be.
Exactly.
Instead of being myself, right? And the reason that I was hired for this job, you know, or the reason that I'm in this situation or in this relationship is because you liked me for me, and you liked me for what I can offer, and, you know, my values and what an asset I am. And so I'm going to show up as I am. And if that doesn't service you, then on to the next, right? And that said, I'm a very deep empath. Like, I can see somebody crying on the subway, not know even what's going on, and I immediately start crying and like have to go over and like console the person. Like, I don't know what it is, but I feel on a very deep level what people around me are feeling. If somebody's having a bad day and they're within, you know, of the vicinity of me, I feel that, and then I feel pressure to like go and make their day better. Or, you know, I just feel what other people are feeling on a heightened level, for better or for worse. And, you know, I think that if we just had more compassion for one another and understanding, you know, like we just when you stop the line at surface level, you don't understand that people are coming to you like, oh, cut all this. But what I'm trying to say is like, you have to recognize that there are so many things about a person that you will never understand. You won't know their traumas, you won't know their heartaches, you won't know their damage, you won't know, you know, what, you won't know enough about them to ever make a judgment. You know, what you are seeing is purely surface level. And I just try to keep that in mind when I'm with people and when I'm meeting people, that you just never know what somebody's going through. That's what I wanted to say.
No, I love that. And I was gonna wrap it up and ask you this final question, but you kind of already answered it. Like you said it so many times, right? Like, you are yourself no matter where you are, whether you're talking to Christian, whether you're talking to me, your parents, your boss. I was gonna ask you, what's one thing that continues to empower you to be your authentic self no matter what?
Wow, that's a really good question. That's a really good question.
That's the nicest thing you've said all podcast.
That's not true. You weren't recording the part where I told you your hair looks really good, you look really healthy, really fit. Like, quarantine is doing, you know, great things for you. You look great. I'm just gonna try to keep trumping my compliments for you. I'm trying to think. Okay, so you know, for me, I think the biggest thing that empowers me to continue being my authentic self is really the people in my life. I have the strongest support system: family, friends, colleagues, everybody in my life. And I recognize how fortunate, how blessed I am to have that community. And for that reason, I want to make everybody that I come across in my life feel that same sense of comfort and support. And I think ever since I was little, you know, I've always been passionate about, you know, helping other people and fighting for the underdog and making sure that everyone felt safe and, you know, accepted for who they are. It's something that's very, very important to me, because I know what an impact that can have on your life when you are surrounded by people who believe in you and who love you and who support you and who encourage you. And, you know, I really think that it's all of our responsibility to help bring out the best in people. And how do you do that? By love them and support them and encourage them. And so I really think, you know, my network of people have 100% inspired me, encouraged me, and supported me in always being my authentic self.